The second thing I wanted to talk about in terms of being, professional as an entrepreneur is actually the quality of work that you do, and this gets to the heart of what it means to be an entrepreneur, I suppose. Your success as an entrepreneur is going to depend on your ability to actually execute, and while we can all assume that that's a natural part of it, I think sometimes what it means to actually execute well goes a long way to explaining what it means to be professional as an entrepreneur. So, the first thing I'd say in terms of the quality of the work that you do is that you need to undertake a significant amount of research, and you need to actually understand what it is you're doing. And as a young entrepreneur, people often try to solve these immense problems, and they have businesses that are multifaceted and have lots of solutions to lots of problems. And while that's a natural part of learning about entrepreneurship, I think a more important part is actually to learn to focus on solving one problem and solving it really, really well. And a big part of that is that you actually need to understand what problems are out there. So, a difficulty of being young sometimes is that you haven't necessarily been exposed to a lot of the problems that businesses and individuals and out in the real world actually face. And so, to me, you really need to get out there and actually speak to people, become comfortable with asking them questions about what they do and how they do things, and getting them to actually explain to you the difficulties that they face, either in their life or in their job or whatever it is, because it's those kind of problems that are actually going to allow you to develop a successful business, and consequently, being able to actually understand that is an important part of being professional. So the key things that I would encourage young entrepreneurs to get comfortable with are you have to go and understand what your target vertical is. So what's the industry you're approaching, what are the specific problems that they have within that industry, who has that problem, how does it affect them, things like that. So they're things that are going to require you to have a conversation, and this is where it becomes really important to present yourself well and so on and so forth, which I talked about before. So the other thing, besides just understanding the target vertical, it's really important for you to then understand what market forces impact the customer you're trying to sell to and the vertical that you're selling into. So, it's useful and important to be on top of the news and to understand, recent laws and legislation that's coming through, because all of those things will impact on the potential problems that an industry will face. And if you're aware of them, it makes it much easier to have a conversation with somebody about the problems that they're facing, because you're actually aware of a lot of those issues before you get into the conversation. So, as a general rule, you can never read too much. You can never learn too much. And I would encourage you to, when you're starting to look at a target vertical or a target industry, to go and read the news, read the publications that are out there. There's always heaps of websites that have interesting information relevant to the market you're trying to sell into. So you don't need to read everything every day, but giving yourself a good reading list that you can come back to a couple of times a week, and just to catch up on what's actually going on. To me, that's a hugely important part of being successful as an entrepreneur. In terms of then the way you execute on a business, there's making sure you complete your work to the highest standard. Respect the time of your customers and stakeholders that are in business with you or that you're trying to sell to. Making sure that you're working with people who are the best at what they do. And on that point, I always try to work with people who challenge me in areas where I don't have specific expertise. So I would choose people to work with who know a hell of a lot more about industries that I don't, or techniques that I don't, because it's those people who will allow you to expand your horizons, and consequently also be successful as an entrepreneur.